Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome to Mom Happy Hour, a day late, but not a dollar short. And if you are watching on the Imperfect Momming podcast, welcome. Today we have Stephanie Chapman joining me because we're going to talk about her upcoming self-care summit. Welcome, Stephanie, back to the podcast and to our Mom Happy Hour.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. It's always fun to talk with you and sit down. And I feel like we have some positive and helpful discussions every single time.
I agree. And I think this is like our third or fourth time going live in a group or podcast. And it's always fun to connect with you. So you are in the Mom Strong tribe. That's your Facebook group, and your company's name is Mom Strong. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
So we're going to talk a little bit about self-care because of your self-care summit, and because you and I both were sick in this last week or so. And so I was like, well, we were going to go live yesterday, but I wasn't feeling well. And we moved it to today because that was better for your schedule as well. Tell us a little bit about what you did when you were sick and how you practiced self-care.
So I've actually been sick. This Wednesday will be 2 weeks. I'm still in recovery mode. I'm probably still going to cough a few times even throughout this. I completely lost my voice. I had something similar to strep. That's the only comparison that I really have. My throat was just killing me. I felt like I had razor blades in my throat for like 4 days. But I'm finally kind of getting back to my normal routine and schedule. But at the time, I honestly just had to give myself grace and just explain to the people around me that I just cannot operate at, 1,000,000% like I normally do. I have very high expectations for myself and I normally push through. But this time I just said, I'm not doing it. It just wasn't good for me. It's not good for me. I feel like it makes the sickness last even longer. And even though I took this downtime, like I said, it's still been 2 weeks. So I can only imagine if I was continuing to push through it like I normally do, I would probably still not have a voice now. But yeah, it's really just about giving yourself grace and letting the people around you actually help you, because you'd be surprised. I feel like a lot more people offer help than what we give them credit for, and we just don't really allow them to help. So take a step back and actually let them in.
That's so true, that when you, like, so many times I've offered people help and the answer has been no thank you, or something not as nice. And it makes me not want to offer again, to the not so nice no's. But even the no is like, there's a discussion with my life coach about offering help and accepting help. Because when you offer help, a lot of times we are offering help because we want to do something nice for this person. It's usually not because we think that this person is a failure and can't do it on their own. Right. But when we accept the help, that's how we feel a lot of times, which is why we don't accept help a lot.
Right. We constantly feel like we need to prove that we have everything handled. We have it all together. We can do all the things all the time. And we really don't need to prove that. And honestly, even if we ask those around us, they would probably agree with us that we can handle everything on our own, but we just don't have to.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of households who have, spouses and children who would help. And, they just need to know what to do. They don't look around and think, how can I help mom? What does mom always do that I could take over for her? They don't have those kinds of thoughts typically.
Mhm.
Um, but if we said, hey, I'm not feeling good, or I can't do all of the things that I need to get done today, or that I'd like to get done, can you empty the dishwasher? Can you fold the laundry? Can you something? And I wasn't sick for very long. I just felt kind of crappy for
Excuse me.
3 or 4 days. You're fine.
I told you it was going to happen.
Right. I just kind of felt crappy for 3 or 4 days. And during that time I slept in, and it kind of made me lose my morning routines, but I just picked up the things that I needed to get done later on. So part of my morning routine is doing at least 10 minutes of something physical activity, which I'm being held accountable for that. So I just moved that to later on in the day. I do my meditation and my reading during my morning time too. So I'm also being held accountable for that. So I just moved them later on into the day, and let myself get a little bit more sleep. Yesterday I woke up just feeling awful, and I wasn't expecting that because I had been feeling better. And then this morning I was expecting to feel awful,
And then
and
you're
I woke up feeling okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I feel like the last couple weeks have been very hit or miss, because even after the whole strep and throat situation got a little bit better, I obviously have this leftover cough, but I also had some major congestion, which caused a sinus infection. So I'm like recovering from that too. So even like the physical stuff that I would normally do to keep myself healthy, I literally can't breathe. I just can't do it. So even that, I'm just like, that's just not happening right now either.
And I think the best thing that we can do as far as self-care in these situations is something you said earlier, which is giving yourself grace, because your body is sick and it needs to rest, and giving yourself grace instead of powering through is going to make you heal faster, and you can pick up back to regular life.
Right. And I feel like sometimes even when you get sick, it's almost like the universe's way of saying, slow down, stop trying to do everything for everyone and be everything for everyone. We're going to make you do nothing for a little bit.
Right. It's definitely a forced reminder, because we have these smaller reminders throughout our day and week and months
that we ignore.
Say slow down, and we ignore them, and then we get sick. So that is definitely the universe sitting you down and saying, you need to slow down now.
Yep, definitely.
So let's talk about your self-care summit. I know I'm participating, and that's all I know.
So the self-care summit is actually something that I do every year. I started it last year. It was a little bit later in the year, but February is all about self-love in my group. And so I have all those prompts and everything going out, and a lot of very good discussions around that. And then I felt like it was just the perfect opportunity at the end of the month to wrap it all up with the self-care summit. So that way we can really learn how to tune into ourselves and listen to ourselves. And I love bringing guests into my group and giving them the opportunity to use, the platform to speak to the people that I've been working with, just give them a different perspective. And everybody just has something different to offer. Like each one of the coaches that are coming in to this summit, I think there's 8 of us total. We each have such a different way of taking care of ourselves. And I mean, obviously there's going to be some overlap, but there's just so many different areas that we're each covering. And I feel like it's going to be very beneficial and a lot of fun to come together and do this again.
Yeah. I love it. I didn't know about the last one. I don't think you and I had met. So
yeah, it was, I think it was like May of last year. It was right around my birthday, I think it was. That one was very hectic, though. I will say I learned a lot hosting just that one alone. So this one is much more organized and I'm a lot more structured this go around. But I feel like this one's coming together very nicely. And we're actually hosting it within the Mom Strong tribe this time. Last time I created a whole separate group. But this time having it within the tribe, I feel like makes it a little bit more accessible to everybody, and it's always going to be there and available. So even after, if you don't catch, next week, it'll be in the guide section in my group and everybody can go back and reference it whenever.
And who is the self-care summit for?
Moms that are really just ready to start prioritizing themselves again. Stop putting yourself last for once. It's really for those moms that are realizing that they've just been bottom of the list for too long.
Yeah. And then do they need to sign up or just join the group, or what? How do we participate?
So all I'm having people do is just join the group and you will have access to all of the events. So when you go into the Mom Strong tribe, at the very top of the group, you'll see the events section and you can go through there, and every single speaker has their own event set up. And we'll be adding a little bit more to those events as we go. But right now you can say, I'm going to this one, I'm not going to that one, and decide which ones are really fitting to you. We have a personal trainer, we have business coaches, we have a money mindset coach, obviously both of us, life and business coaches, everybody. We have a little bit of everything for everyone.
Awesome. And I'm excited about it. I'm writing a blog. I think, assuming I have time to finish it today. I had a memorial to go to this weekend, and we were thinking that, some people might come after the memorial to see our house, because there's a lot of family that haven't seen where we live. And so we were going to invite people over, and then I didn't spend the week doing any cleaning whatsoever. And because my boyfriend didn't spend the week doing any cleaning whatsoever, I kind of assumed that we weren't going to invite people over. And then Saturday morning, he's finishing up the slideshow and he says, I'd love if you could, make the house look presentable. And I'm like, okay. Let's see what I could do in the amount of time that I have. And so I did, I worked as quickly as I could, and I did as much as I could during the time. And when it was time for me to get ready to go to the memorial, I was like, this is as much as I could do in the amount of time that I had. So my self-care in that moment was two things. Number one, I told my boyfriend, nobody's coming over today. If they want to come over and see the house, they're going to come over tomorrow after 2, so that you and I have time to do some more. So that was self-care number one. And number two, I decided that we're going to start really digging into the cleaning of this house. So, or it's
the
not
responsibility, so it shouldn't
the
be
responsibility. Yeah. So we, a long time ago, set up who does what. And as time has progressed, he's started doing a lot more of my stuff, but I haven't started doing his stuff. So his stuff is kind of not getting done as much. And there's also, that's like the maintenance of housework, right? It was the day-to-day stuff. I do the dishes and the laundry, those are like my things. And he would do the big stuff that happens on the week, or happens weekly, like cleaning toilets and whatnot. And so the weekly stuff hasn't been getting done as much. And the daily stuff we're pretty much on top of. We've got that system down. But there's also like the deep cleaning stuff that doesn't happen. And when we moved into the house, the house was not deep cleaned. So and we've been here for 4 years. So we've been like doing little pieces here and there.
Right.
There's some stuff that needs to get done that's deep cleaning. And I said, you know what, we're going to spend a half an hour to an hour every single day. And we're going to just move room to room. And we're going to do what we can in that 30 minutes to an hour. And we're going to start organizing some stuff and pitching some stuff and getting a routine done. And let's do it together, because it's so much more fun when we do it together, and we love spending time together. Let's make it productive, you know? So those were the 2 ways that I did self-care for the future, because I don't want to feel like that. The way that I was feeling is that if people come over, you know, there's still a stigma that the woman is the housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I wasn't getting any of this feedback, I was projecting this feedback onto people that they were going to think I'm a bad housekeeper, and I'm not the only one who lives here.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that we put all of that pressure and all of just everything on our own shoulders. And like you said, it's that stigma around, you know, us being responsible for all those things, when, I mean, honestly, I feel like at least in my household, because of everything that I do, it'd be easier for my husband to do all those things. He works far less than I do at this point. And I pretty much have all the other responsibilities. I pay, you know, all of our bills, you know, I take care of the kids, I do all of that. So, you know, it would be easier for him to take over more of the house, but that still falls on my shoulders somehow. You know, at the end of the day, I'm the one that looks around and says, these things need to happen, these things need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely about setting those boundaries of like, well, I'm not doing these things anymore. And some of these things are going to have to go to my son or to my daughters or my husband. This is just how it has to go in order for me to stay sane every day, in order for me to continue providing for our family, in order for me to continue doing all the things that I do outside of cleaning. You know, somebody else is going to have to take on some of this. And it all goes back to those boundaries and asking for help and accepting that help.
Yep. And the reason we have kids is to do our housework, right? Like that's the reason.
Our little minions.
So I don't recall, did we say the dates of the self-care summit?
So it's going to be the 27th through the 1st. So next Monday, everything is kicking off, and it will go until Wednesday. And we have 3 to 4 presentations each day. So you can tune in throughout the day, obviously, whichever ones are, you know, most fitting to you. You can tune into all of them. However you want to make that work. And again, replays will always be available. That was one of the big things I wanted with this, was last year having its own separate group, you know, keeping all those replays and stuff wasn't as easy. This time we're making it easy. We're going to make it accessible for everyone.
Awesome. So I will link to your group in the podcast episode.
Okay.
And it's interesting. I haven't had any guests on my mom happy hour yet. So I don't know how to end it with a guest.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad that I was your first.
So there will be another mom happy hour for you all next week. There's another podcast episode dropping on Thursday with, I believe, Janelle Kent, who's a parenting expert herself. And until then, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.